Mesdames et messieurs, nous avons à cœur d'honorer vos engagements et allons poursuivre avec la deuxième plénière pour rester dans les temps. C'est une plénière extrêmement importante. Je vous invite à prendre place dans la salle, ladies and gentlemen. Please take your seats in the room for a very important conversation. Moving from hype to reality, please step inside the room and take your seats. Thank you so much. Merci de libérer le couloir et de vous installer dans la salle afin que nous puissions procéder avec une conversation extrêmement importante, très attendue pour passer du hype à la réalité de ce marché que nous attendons. This session will explore the tangible steps to turn green hydrogen aspirations into market realities. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming to the stage Valérie Ruiz Domingo, Group Hydrogen Vice President for ENGIE. Let's please give her a round of applause as she's making her way to the stage. We are welcoming also Mr. Reda Hamdoun, Executive Vice President, Power to X Strategy, Nareva, and Vice President, Cluster Green Hydrogen. Hello, welcome to you. Please welcome as well Mr. Mark Crandall, Founder and Chairman, CW Global. It's such a pleasure to have you with us. Welcome. Just over there, thank you. We are also welcoming Mr. Abdelrahim Ben Harish, Senior Director Energy from JESA, who will join us on stage. Welcome to you, sir. And we are privileged to have among us Mr. Aman Joshi, Executive Vice President and CCO, Bloom Energy. Let's please give him a round of applause. Also privileged to have with us this morning for the plenary, Mr. Amin Hussein, Chief Executive Officer, Hydrogel by Innovex. Let's please give him a round of applause. And last but certainly not least, Daniel Schwapak, Head of Sustainable Energy Systems for Middle East and Africa of Siemens Energy. Welcome to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us for this much-awaited panel discussion. We will be discussing our path forward and how to make all this happen. You have all listened to the ministerial plenary this morning and the insights that were shared with us. But before we dive in, let's see a video from Ditte Juul Johnson, Director General for Energy from the European Commission. And then we'll be back for the conversation. Thank you.
Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres, Mesdames et Messieurs le Président, directeurs généraux, dirigeants d'entreprises, experts, chers participants, c'est un grand honneur d'intervenir aujourd'hui au sommet Power to X. Je tiens tout d'abord à féliciter les autorités marocaines et les organisateurs pour ce sommet qui prend de l'ampleur année après année. Le succès et l'intérêt de ce sommet illustrent l'importance de l'hydrogène renouvelable pour décarboner nos systèmes énergétiques au niveau européen ainsi qu'au niveau mondial. Dans ce sens, le partenariat privilégié entre le Maroc et l'Union européenne est essentiel pour développer le marché de l'hydrogène renouvelable et pour assurer son plein potentiel. L'année passée, à COP28, on a été témoin d'un engagement mondial sans précédent en faveur de la transition énergétique. La communauté internationale s'est engagée à tripler les moyens de production renouvelable et à doubler le taux moyen d'efficacité énergétique dans le monde d'ici 2030. Donc cet engagement pour l'augmentation des capacités de production d'hydrogène pour répondre aux objectifs climatiques et énergétiques mondiaux. Donc nous nous réjouissons donc que le Maroc se joint à ce dernier effort. À l'approche de COP29, nous nous préparons maintenant à mener les négociations sur la mise en œuvre de ces engagements, notamment en attirant les capitaux financiers nécessaires pour la production et l'infrastructure. Parce que l'hydrogène renouvelable est au cœur de nos partenariats internationaux, ainsi que pour nos efforts d'investissement dans la transition verte. Il est l'une des composantes essentielles de la stratégie climatique et énergétique en vue d'atteindre la neutralité carbone en 2050. L'hydrogène renouvelable offre de multiples opportunités pour l'emploi et promet le renforcement des liens industriels en Méditerranée. En 2020, nous avons lancé la stratégie européenne sur l'hydrogène, complétée par Repower EU en 2022, suite aux événements géopolitiques. La Méditerranée est un corridor clé dans cette stratégie européenne sur l'hydrogène renouvelable. Donc il faut créer de nouvelles routes énergétiques dans la région pour produire et transporter de l'hydrogène renouvelable à bas coût autour d'un vrai partenariat. Cela passe par le développement des infrastructures d'hydrogène en Europe et dans son voisinage, afin d'acheminer les molécules vertes vers nos consommateurs et pour la production en Méditerranée. Les projets d'intérêt mutuel nous permettent de fournir une assistance technique et un soutien financier à des projets en dehors de l'Union européenne grâce à l'initiative Global Gateway. Cependant, ceux-ci doivent être complétés par des investissements privés provenant par exemple des entreprises membres de l'association Hydrogen Europe. Donc il est primordial d'attirer et d'établir des environnements régulatoires propices aux investissements en Méditerranée. C'est dans ce cadre que la coopération énergétique entre l'Union européenne et le Maroc est importante. Notre partenariat vert, lancé en 2022, marque une collaboration exemplaire dans ce domaine. Il y a de nombreux projets qui ont vu le jour pour soutenir le déploiement des énergies renouvelables. À COP29, on a vu vraiment le point culminant de ce partenariat à travers le lancement du projet Énergie verte qui finance la transition énergétique marocaine à hauteur de 50 millions d'euros. Il nous prouve l'importance de notre partenariat, de notre coopération pour faire émerger de nouvelles opportunités économiques mutuellement bénéfiques. Donc je tiens à saluer les autorités marocaines pour le lancement de l'offre Maroc cette année qui a permis de stimuler le développement de nombreux projets, notamment avec l'appui du secteur privé européen. Cette initiative ambitieuse positionne le Maroc comme un acteur clé dans le domaine de l'hydrogène renouvelable. Votre vision de faire du Maroc un hub régional est non seulement réaliste, mais également essentielle pour accélérer la transition énergétique en Méditerranée. L'Union européenne se tient prête à accompagner le projet le plus prometteur en collaboration avec le Maroc et avec nos États membres. Ici, à la Commission européenne, notre présidente von der Leyen a eu l'occasion de rappeler ses priorités pour cette nouvelle Commission de 2024 à 2029. Dans ce sens, elle a également défini des objectifs clairs pour la Méditerranée en le classant comme une des grandes priorités, un des partenaires clés pour cette période. Elle nous a notamment confié la création d'une initiative de coopération transméditerranée sur l'énergie et les technologies propres. L'initiative visera à renforcer le développement, l'intégration et l'échange d'énergie renouvelable et à stimuler la production de technologies propres dans la région même. Le renforcement de notre partenariat avec le Maroc passe par la consolidation de dialogue sur l'énergie entre l'Union européenne et le Maroc, y compris au plus haut niveau. Ceci va permettre une croissance durable des deux côtés de la Méditerranée. Donc en conclusion, l'avenir de l'énergie propre repose sur notre coopération, sur notre partenariat. Il nous assure qu'ensemble, nous pouvons parvenir aux promesses d'un futur décarboné, un futur avec croissance et emploi. Il est donc important de discuter aujourd'hui ces projets concrets sur le Power to X et je vous souhaite d'ores et déjà d'excellents échanges et beaucoup de succès pour ce sommet. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Directrice Générale Énergie de la Commission européenne. We will have 2 rounds of questions with around 2 minutes allocated to each question for the sake of time. And I'll start with you, Mrs. Valérie Ruiz-Domingo. You are coordinating all the hydrogen activities at ENGIE across the entire value chain, and you serve as a board member at Hydrogen Europe. From your perspective, what are the key enablers for transforming green hydrogen from hype into a market reality?
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. And I was there 2 years ago, so I'm very happy to come back this year. And I think that really Morocco could be an important, very important player in the hydrogen industry and e-molecule for sure. Just before answering to your question, maybe just to remember that ENGIE is a long-term partner in Morocco. We are there, and I think that Gérard Mestralet reminded us previously. And I think that we really believe at ENGIE that hydrogen will be one of the solutions to make a success for the decarbonization of the heavy industry, such as the heavy mobility. So that is really great. And from ENGIE perspective, we are all around the value chain. That means that we are renewable energy producer. Also hydrogen, renewable hydrogen and low carbon hydrogen producer, but also on the transmission, on pipe, and also underground storage. That could be very interesting because it will compensate the intermittency of the renewables, and we are also on refueling stations, so on the distribution side. So when you are looking today at the market, we are far away of where we were thinking 2 years ago. We don't know when really it will happen, but I think that what is important that we are facing many challenges. The first one is we need visibility on the regulatory framework. We were talking about Europe, but also the US with the Inflation Reduction Act. We are still waiting for the decrease and to see how it will be possible to export to Europe, for example. So that we really need this visibility. We need also to have something that is very important and that we all discover at the same time. I think that it was, I'll say, a surprise for everyone, we need reliability on the equipment. And all along the value chain, not only electrolyzer, but we need this kind of reliability. And so visibility, reliability, and I think also if we want to decrease the price of cost of production of the hydrogen, it will be very important to have some kind of financial scheme to help the industries to develop this kind of project. And also for the off-takers, because without this kind of global scheme, it will be quite difficult. And we are saying today that it's quite difficult to take some FIDs without this kind of off-takers commitment on a long-term basis. So that means that we are really facing a lot of challenges. But when we are looking at Morocco, to answer to your question, I think with the Offre Maroc, that is a very huge step for all the stakeholders, because you will give this framework and this visibility. You will give the access to the land, the access to infrastructure, to access to renewable energy and so on, and maybe also some incentives on the financial scheme. So that is really set up the global picture, and that is very important for Morocco and for all the partners further to develop this kind of project.
Thank you so much. There is a lot to unpack there. You have mentioned the legislation, yes, finance, offtake, obviously, technology, and we will dive into all these aspects. I'm moving to you, Mr. Rida Hamdoun. You are the Executive Vice President of Power to X and Strategy at Nareva and Vice President of the Green Hydrogen Cluster with extensive experience in economic and infrastructure policy. Building on what Valérie just said, can you talk us through the infrastructure-related challenges and solutions that you can see from your perspective?
Yeah, that's a great question, Manal. Coming back to the title of this session, I think green hydrogen is already our present and future. This is our new reality. When you look at the past year, we've passed above the 200 projects numbers that are going directly to FID. So that's great progress. And really, the true marker in our industry, is how many projects are going to FEED, and there was an increase of 30% for this year, and 12% of all investments in our sector in green hydrogen are going today to FEED. So this is the new reality for us today. But this reality is multifold. We developers, and especially at Nareva, we have realized that this new reality is also about bringing about an extremely competitive price of green hydrogen. We're not quite at the stage where you could say that everybody wants green hydrogen, but nobody wants to pay for it. But we need to pay attention to our competitivity. So the $3 or $4 threshold now for competitive green hydrogen against alternative, the alternative like gray hydrogen is now the new benchmark against the $2 that were before. But there is another part of this reality is that if us developers have to take all the risks, the commercial risks involved in these projects at scale, the financial risk, the technological risk as well, then public authorities also have to take the risk with us in infra. Because there is no point in producing these molecules if you cannot have the right infra to transport them, to store them, and to distribute these molecules. And we're ready to work hand in hand with the public authorities to make this our new reality. So, first of all, transport. We talk about ports. There are today more than 150 terminals that can carry ammonia today. Not so much in our region, so this is something that we have to pay attention to. But the ports, when you talk about the ports, you also talk about the depth of this port, because one of the true applications and one that we think is the most sustainable for green hydrogen is green steel. And for green steel, you would need ports that can go up, that can go down to minus 18 meters. There is another gas that is important for the development of green hydrogen, and it's just natural gas. You cannot have a GRI today if you don't have an injection as well of natural gas. So we're all for terminals, also for natural gas, because we believe that they will help about the development of green hydrogen. So this is for transportation. It needs to stay competitive. NH3 green ammonia is competitive over long distance, maybe less so over short distances. That's why a green hydrogen or a hydrogen pipeline is probably a good idea. Expensive, costly on the short term, because you're talking about an investment of between $2 and $4 million a kilometer, but with huge economies of scale over short distance. For instance, if you have a new pipeline of 20-inch diameter, then you can transport up to 1.2 gigawatt at a cost of 60 cents per kilometer. If you go up to a new pipeline of 40-inch diameter, then you can transport 17 gigawatt equivalent of hydrogen at a cost of 20 cents per kilogram per 1,000 kilometers. So the strategic side also of a pipeline is interesting, and the pipeline will help us store. Why do you need storage? We need storage because what we want to do in Morocco, but I think what everybody wants to do is industry. Green industry is the end of the game. I was listening to the minister, to one of the ministers in the beginning of this conference, and he was saying that really molecules are just a means to an end, and the end is the creation of jobs and the industry. And you cannot have industry in our country without storage, because green hydrogen, by definition, has a production profile that doesn't match the consumption profile of the industry. And I'll finish on that. I want to say something that Valérie has touched upon, which is the regulatory infrastructure. You need to be competitive, and I call upon our European friends here. Europe is our main offtake market, and if Europe keep distorting the market with their subsidies and distorting the market with their different rules on the sourcing of CO2, then that makes our own green hydrogen less competitive. But all in all, these are challenges that we can overcome together and well within our reach.
Thank you so much. So it's already a reality, and the infrastructure aspect is absolutely crucial in order to take this forward. Mr. Mark Crandall, at CWP Global, you are pioneers in the development of ultra-large-scale green hydrogen hubs. You have developed Europe's largest onshore wind farm, created the largest renewable power portfolio in Australia, and continue to build on Southeast Europe's largest grid-connected power portfolio across 10 countries. So we talked about the legislation. We mentioned also the infrastructure, the financing aspect really quickly. From your perspective, how can we secure buyers, like get more offtake agreements? How can we move this forward?
Thank you very much. It's a good question. First of all, I just want to thank the organizers for giving CWP and myself the chance to participate here today. It's a great conference. There's a lot to talk about. The short answer to the question is, in my view, markets work, all right? Markets work really, really well. You don't need to worry about financing. You don't need to worry about infrastructure. The market will do that. All you have to do is make sure that the pricing reflects the desire of government, the desire of the people. If we want to decarbonize, we've got to recognize that fossil fuels, absent the impact on climate change, are cheaper than anything except direct consumption of renewable electricity. But if you're moving around in a car, in a train, in a plane, if you're trying to store material for long periods of time, you've got to be a molecule. And none of our molecules are as cheap as fossil fuels are. And they never will be unless we incorporate into the cost of fossil fuels the externality of greenhouse gas emissions. The trick for government, in our view, is price those in. Right now in the EU, the exchange trading system for EU certs is priced at around 65 euros. That's not enough to make it work. At 150, the market will kick into gear and things will really start to happen. And it's within the power of government to increase the CO2 price and to bake it into all the products we consume so that business people like us can then come along and address the issue.
Thank you very much. You have raised a really important point there, which is the cost and the mechanism we could work on to work on this cost aspects. And we'll get back to you to talk more about that. Mr. Abdelrahim Belhrish, as an executive director leading the energy business at JESA, which is an OCP Worley JV and a key player in Africa's energy and green hydrogen sectors. Building on what's been said until now, about scaling up projects, what factors do you see as critical for the bankability of P2X projects, and how can costs be reduced?
Thank you very much for inviting me to this event. Before responding to your good questions, I would like to only in the beginning to share my vision or my something that I'm convinced for. The hydrogen will come. Anyway, it's a matter of time because we do not see a future for our planet without energy transition, and we do not see any energy transition without green hydrogen. Now, the critical factors for bankability. There are the normal bankability factors that are known in the energy field, such as how the stakeholders are strong, how the performance will be managed, and so forth. The contractual packages, all this can be met very easily. It's an engineering and contract management preoccupation, and this is very easy. But there are some specific factors to green hydrogen. For example, offtakes. Without a bankable offtake agreement on long-term basis, there is no bankability of the projects. And in order to reach or to have those such bankable offtake, there is a gap between the cost of hydrogen produced from renewables and the cost of hydrogen produced from coal gasification or SMR, with or without carbon capture. And this gap varies between 1.5 for ammonia and $3.2 per kilogram of hydrogen for sustainable aviation fuels. who can support this gap? I think that without the support of the governments, without the support of all the stakeholders, without incentives for the developers, nothing can be done in order to reach this milestones. Second, we need to conciliate maybe, this is my point of view, the lenders with the technology. Because today, the lenders, they are a little bit reticent to technology. For example, they still think that alkaline technology is very difficult to be connected directly to renewables. And this is something that I think we lived on the first project that is under commissioning in China. This is not really a big problem because there are technical solutions also that need to be developed and discussed with the lenders. Second, for normal projects, smaller projects that will be connected to the grid, of course, mega projects will be standalone. When talking about 200 kiloton of hydrogen per year or more, we are talking about more than 3 gigawatts of renewables. We cannot imagine using the grid for 3 gigawatts and connect the plant to the grid. So we will be on standalone, and the grid connection or grid integration with the renewables is an important issue. For smaller projects, 20, 30, or 40,000 tons of hydrogen, we can imagine outsourcing energy. And in this case, to ensure the bankability, we need to make sure that there is a long-term contract for sourcing energy, a long-term and sustainable contract for sourcing water. And that, the last point is the transport. We should not neglect the cost of transport of hydrogen, because this is the cost of transport of hydrogen may cost equivalent of the cost of production. So to respond to the second point, that is how to reduce the costs. Today, to reduce the costs, we need to look at the whole value chain. We know that in the cost of hydrogen without transport, the energy represents between 50 to 70%, and the cost of electrolyzers between 30 to 50%. In the best case, we can produce energy at 2 cents of dollar in the best area, let's say in Morocco, with the production at full load equivalent, that is equivalent to 6,000 hours. And we do not expect to be lower than that anywhere in the world. Maybe lower by a few percent. So this is not a huge. This will not have a huge impact on the cost of electrolyzers, cost of electrolysis, or cost of hydrogen. Let's look to the other part, that is the electrolysis. Today, a lot of investors or manufacturers are ready to invest in scaling factories, and by scaling I mean 1 gigawatt or more. But they need to have at least a pipeline of projects for the next 5 to 10 years. Otherwise, they will produce for what? But in order to be able to produce electrolyzers at a cost at least compared to what is done today in China, because in China the electrolyzers are 75% lower than the electrolyzers produced in the West. Maybe more support from the government, especially on R&D aspects, because we need to prevent materials to be as a huge barrier to development of electrolyzers. For alkaline, we need to develop technologies free of platinum and cobalt. On PEM, we need to develop technologies that use less platinum and iridium. And like this, I think that we will reach scalability and we will reach reasonable cost for the production of electrolyzers.
Thank you very much for that overview, and we'll dive into the pipeline of projects right after. Moving on to you, Mr. Aman Joshi, as the Chief Commercial Officer at Bloom Energy, which is a global leader in clean energy technology, specializing in hydrogen and fuel cell technologies. Your perspective as a technology provider is critical. Considering the challenges discussed so far, what do you see as the main technical and market barriers to advancing green hydrogen market?
Yep. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, and it's great to be here. We are leaders in solid oxide technology, And when you think about scaling up and making green hydrogen projects real, you know, everyone in the value chain has to be able to economically benefit, right from developers to renewables companies to off-takers. Otherwise, the market mechanisms don't work. A case in point being in US, where we're based, even after a $3 a kilogram PTC, you don't see very many projects. Why is that? Because the cost of electricity is going up significantly. When you look at what is happening in US with the advent of AI, there is actually shortage of electricity, so it makes very little sense for people to use that lack of electron that is available and convert it into green hydrogen. Now, compare and contrast that to Morocco. Morocco is blessed with a lot of baseload, almost very heavy capacity factor of renewables, both wind and solar, which is a huge differentiated advantage. Then in the long run, technologies that are able to convert that renewables energy more efficiently into hydrogen are going to enable a lower cost of hydrogen. And with solid oxide platform that we have, because we run at high temperature, the US Department of Energy, which has been testing all electrolyzers, have certified that we are 40% more efficient. Now, to my fellow gentleman's question on cost and scale, our solid oxide platform is not unique for electrolyzer. It's actually the exact same platform as fuel cell. So for us, we are very confident that our costs, actually, we've demonstrated, are coming down close to 10 to 15% every year, not because the electrolyzer market has taken off, but because the fuel cell market has really taken off in US, right? So when we forward project our trajectory, we are very confident that in next couple of years, cumulatively, our costs for a solid oxide electrolyzer would be down anywhere between 30 to 40%, and then you pair it up with the 40% efficiency advantage, the cost of hydrogen that we are able to offer to our customers will be extremely low. Finally, I'll end by saying, again, because we have a common platform, we actually have a 1 gigawatt factory today. All of you guys are more than welcome to visit our factory, because we're not talking about future plans. We actually have production lines shipping stuff today. Because again, the differentiator for us is we are the same platform. For us, electrolyzer and fuel cell are exact same.
Thank you very much for your perspective. Let's take another technological perspective before we come back to you, Amin Hussein, to help us wrap up this first section. Daniel, you are currently Head of Sustainable Energy Systems for Middle East and Africa of Siemens Energy, based in Abu Dhabi since October 2022. Given your extensive experience and the various challenges that you've encountered, what's your perspective on the key obstacles facing the hydrogen economy today, and what insights can you share with us, both from a technological and market point of view?
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. So just to order it a bit, let's start with the market first, and then we talk about the technology, and then the obstacles we need to cope with. When we look into the market, first of all, I think what is important, we are discussing green hydrogen as a given, but when you look at the global base, there are, let's say, regions like when we start in US, they're talking also about blue. Yeah? So it's not automatically always green hydrogen. So we see also a lot of blue projects popping up, and I think certain markets are not fully decided whether they're going to be green or blue. So yes, maybe more blue than green. When you go to Europe, yes, there's the debate about green. I think it's a bit more dominant. When you go down to Africa, then yes, it's green. So I think there's a commonality what we have. That's good. So I think that somehow combines Europe and Africa. When you go to Middle East, where I'm based, so I see a lot of both, green as well as then also the blue hydrogen, yeah, because also there's obviously a lot of oil and gas. And if you go to Asia, actually also both are accepted. When we go one step below, the projects are announced right now, what we see to be implemented by 2030 in a ballpark of 600 gigawatt. So sounds a lot of work. For Africa itself, it's around 10%, so it's 60 gigawatt out of the to 600 to be implemented by 2030. And actually, we are looking more or less focused on a funnel of 15 gigawatts. When we look also what is the final end product, it's ammonia. 90% of the projects we are looking at, it's ammonia project. So the topic of methanol right now doesn't play any significant role for Africa. So hopefully that change, but I think there we need to talk about regulations to change this, to allow also to get industrial CO2 into methanol, still considered be green. Technology-wise, so there was already a couple of good points from the speakers before. On the technology side, we are operating right now 1 year our giga plant in Berlin. For 1 year, it's capable of to produce up to 3 gigawatts. Does it as of today? No. The orders are not there. The market is not there yet. What is, I think, important, what nevertheless it shows the supply chain is there, the manufacturing technology is there, the processes are implemented, the quality measures works, and this is, I think, it's the important message to all the project developers, to all the projects. Yes, so large-scale manufacturing can happen as of today if the market give it the possibility. Beyond that, we have on a large-scale electrolyzer the 17.5 megawatt array. We have 30 megawatt in operation. We have 300 megawatt under construction, and we have signed agreements in a ballpark number of 400 megawatt. So there's more to come. We are in the full row and working here on scaling up the projects, and with this learnings we take out of them, we feed back to further develop the next generation of electrolyzer. The obstacles, I think most of them already have been mentioned. The offtake agreements, the financing topic. I think what we haven't touched that much on yet is the topic of resources. And I think it fits perfectly to the artificial intelligence and the increasing demand for electricity. What we see as a also company which works obviously a lot in electricity is that we have a 4 to 5% year-on-year increase on electricity side. So in a nutshell, the order books are full for grid technologies, for gas turbines, and all other technologies around electrification. More or less the same technology, same people, same manufacturing, same supply chain you need for hydrogen as well. So we see definitely there could come a point we have the constraints and not capable of to fulfill everything. So that's something we definitely need to work on, and the cost reduction I think we discussed in the second question.
Thank you very much for sharing with us your perspective. Hussein, moving on to you now. You are the CEO of Hydrogel, a business launched by Innovex, which is a multi-sectoral impact business builder and subsidiary of Mohammed VI Polytechnic University. You have an extensive career before that at Air Liquide, so you have developed a deep understanding of the challenges and opportunities within the hydrogen economy. Given everything that has been discussed, we just mentioned the resources, the finances, the offtakes, and all the other aspects, what is your perspective regarding the necessary steps to drive this transformation ahead?
Thank you, Manal. No, I think the interventions were already extremely rich in highlighting basically the positive sides of things, that the industry have been developing, although of course not reaching the targets that has been, very ambitious, but we see very positive signs. It's going in the right direction. Now, we always look at it from the perspective of project development, technology selection, and financing these projects. Maybe we can step back also just a second and look at how the industrial systems today operate and why fossil fuels actually have been so great, for decades to support the development of industrial systems. Well, very basically because fossil fuels are an energy that is available, so there is a security of supply condition that make it great actually to use, of course, with all the impact on the climate that we want to fight against, and the affordability of that energy. So I think if we do the parallel and we do the comparison, hydrogen can be successful if we manage also to achieve these two conditions. So we need to bring renewables to the industry, at the heart of the industry, either for energy or for chemical feedstocks. And we need to bring that in a secure manner and in an affordable way. So this is the whole, of course, challenge that we need to resolve. But at least, you know, there is a positive news, is that hydrogen is fixing one piece of the equation, which is the security of supply, because renewables cannot be used everywhere directly as electricity. And converting that into molecules, this is really enabling, you know, the decarbonization of the so-called hard-to-abate sector. So at least we resolved, you know, one piece of that equation by looking at hydrogen and all its derivatives as a way to decarbonize. Now, of course, the big challenge is to make it affordable and make sure that we have projects that are serving this ambition. And I think what was mentioned, I mean, there are many areas that are targeted to make this hydrogen affordable. It has been mentioned, the infrastructure. It plays really a crucial role because it serves as efficient transport of those molecules, but also to make sure that the users have the comfort of that security of supply. You know, it's very difficult to ask an industrial player to rely on green molecules when those don't have the guarantee of supply. You know, I mean, hydrogen still represents few percents of their cost stack, you know, and they don't want to jeopardize their whole operations just to, you know, rely on that green hydrogen. So we need to make the infrastructure in a way that give the comfort to all the users that hydrogen basically is the new fuel and is the new feedstock, so they can rely on it. Secondly, of course, projects need to develop the highest standard of quality. And I think we're all working, you know, between project developers, technology suppliers, manufacturers, engineering. We are all working actually to increase the level of quality of what we do. A project is a single recipe. So each and every time we develop a project, we need to enhance the collaboration among all these actors to develop that specific recipe that make this project a success. And I think focusing on the quality of the projects is key. And we have in Morocco, of course, the great input in terms of resources, but we are also developing with Innovex, with UM6P, with the whole ecosystem, all the enablers in Morocco that allow us to develop high quality, high standard projects. And this is also key to bring the trust to all the community around us that, you know, our projects can make it not only to FID, but they can be here 20 years down the line, 30 years down the line. And the particular aspect, of course, green investments is that the cash cost during the operations is extremely low. It's all about investment, so the long-term viability of the projects is actually a key criteria for success.
Thank you so much for sharing that perspective and insisting on this trust aspect, which is really important indeed in order to build the market. And I'll get back to you later on to learn how are you supporting the supply and what you're doing on that end. Now, for this second round, we want to take your pulse as experts on the ongoing, upcoming green hydrogen projects and their estimated impact to get a sense of what is going on the market. I will start again with you, Ms. Valérie Ruiz-Domingo. As you said earlier, we may not be seeing the scale initially anticipated 2 years ago. Do you feel there has been an acceleration in progress, though? Could you share your insights on the current pipeline of green hydrogen projects and what milestones we can expect in the near future?
Thank you. Just maybe coming back on your last point, I think that for sure in ENGIE we really believe that the alliance between the electron and the molecule, because that will be really the solution to bring the flexibility for the system. So I think that it was a fair point and very important point. And when you are looking today, maybe 2 years ago, and I said previously, we were signing MOUs with gigawatt and so on and so on. I think that everyone make a step back and say, well, first we have to learn, and that is really important. And not only on the conception and the design of the project, but also once you have a project, on the construction. So we have to learn how to construct, how to build, how to commission a project, and also how we operate that. Because we know if we want to have the optimization and the creation of value We need, for example, to optimize the balance plant, so not only the electrolyzer and the efficiency of electrolyzer, but we also need to have this kind of... So I think that everyone is learning, still learning, and maybe for a few years ahead, we will need to have all together. And it's important also to have cooperation, partnership between OEM, with off-takers, and so on, because I think that all together we can find the best solution, and for sure. But really still learning. And so what we have done, we have, I think it was in 2022, we have a 3.5 megawatt in South Africa electrolyzer. It was the first kind of trying to decarbonize the huge mining truck for Anglo-American. So that was the first attempt. Right now we have a 10 megawatt project under construction in Australia to produce e-ammonia. So that will commission normally next year, at the beginning of next year. And of course, we are operating more than 15 refueling stations. So it's a small electrolyzer, but when you are looking for the performance and the optimization that I was referring to previously, I think it's also important to learn with this small fat. And of course, we have more projects, and we are in Oman. We are also in Latin America, in Brazil, in Chile. We are, of course, in Europe, in France, Belgium, and Netherlands. So, but we see that all the markets are different, because today we don't have a liquid international market. And I see that one enabler that I didn't mention earlier, it will be important, is the certification. Because I think that we will need only one certification system that will be able to have this liquid market, because without that it will be some kind of difficulties to stop up. So a lot of projects going on. I think that we are more learning, more on the between 10 and I will say 100 or 200 megawatt, and not anymore on gigawatt. If we want really to succeed and to take more FIDs, because we don't have so many FIDs right now, so we really need to learn and say, but as I am used to, I said, well, we need to be now pragmatic, realistic, but still, of course, optimistic, because we know that to create a new market, a new filière, as such as hydrogen, that is more complex than we were thinking at the beginning, it will take time. So it's why we need to be optimistic, because hydrogen or the derivative will be one of the solutions to decarbonize. So but it will take maybe more time, but we have to be really, and once again, the cooperation, the partnership between the different stakeholders are very important if we want to work together to achieve as soon as possible this kind of project.
Thank you very much. FIDs as in final investment decisions. Thank you so much for sharing that perspective with us, Valérie. Daniel, given your position and the requests you receive from developers, what is your vision regarding the current pipeline of projects in the hydrogen sector, and are you sensing an acceleration in project development?
Well, what we right now see in the market, I think that fits what was just said around the FIDs. The market took a bit of pause. Yeah? So the first half year, I would say almost no FID has been taken of this year. What we saw that the market is accelerating now, at least in Europe. So there we got a couple of orders. That's good. It's good to see that the projects are going ahead. But picking up the number what I mentioned before, the 60 gigawatts, the 10% out of the 600 for Africa. 98% of these projects are still in the early development stage. So it means they are still haven't reached the pre-feed or feed stage. So what we get from actually project developers is really request for information, budgetary offers. It's request for feed support. There we provide normally our energy system design. So there we can help to really engineer the full system from a volatile renewable profile down to an ammonia flange, and tell what is exactly capacities you should build up for each of the technology along the entire value chain. It's good, it's important, it's very important actually to really set up the entire system in a proper way, but still that's not a pre-feed or feed. It comes afterwards, right? And the pre-feed and feeds would be the next steps. Even I see slowly a number increase of pre-feeds, so means also the entire funnel is moving in the right direction, but still not reached yet where we, I think, need to have it. What is actually interesting is that we see a change from the rather smaller ones and the pilot projects towards now the complex power-to-X system. And I think that tells us, okay, the projects are really going more in the larger direction for 500 megawatt plus, I would say. It's not necessarily always 10 or whatever gigawatts. Now it's rather 500 megawatt right now, what I see most. And I think that's kind of a suitable size to reach the maximum economies of scale. I think it doesn't matter too much anymore whether you go to 1 gigawatt or 2 gigawatt, except the common infrastructure. Yeah? Common infrastructure is a separate topic, but for the hydrogen plant itself, 500 megawatt, it's actually a quite good size. And then considering the full complexity with also the grid. Yeah? I think what is not really fully considered always in the discussion is the topic of how to stabilize a grid for a multi-gigawatt island mode. There you need synchronized condensers. There you need battery storage systems. So what we normally provide, it's a grid study with our grid consulting team, and this is actually, which just goes really into microseconds to make sure that your grid, what you're finally building up, is really gonna work. And the technology, what you will select, PEM, alkaline, solid oxide, should be based on this outcome of this grid study. So do the grid study first, then make your decision which technology works best, because we see that the PEM, at least ours with a 30 seconds ramp up to full capacity, actually can help to reduce cost on the grid side. And that's something what should be kept in mind. Just one word to the cost reduction. So overall, when we look at the energy system design for a power to ammonia plant, around 50 to maximum 20%, it's the electrolyzer plant itself. If we split this half in the middle, means around 10%, it's the electrolyzer itself. The rest is balance of plant for the electrolyzer plant. Honestly, on the EPC side, for the balance of plant, there will be not much reduction, cost reductions to be expected. That's at least what we don't see right now. So the EPC and balance of plant prices keep somehow stable. 10% of the electrolyzer for the entire system, that's something what we're working on. And yeah, we'll see further cost reductions. With the further R&D, up to 80% reduction of iridium, for instance, we're targeting. That was requested. It's in the making from R&D departments. And this will drive further the costs down also on the PEM technology.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you for sharing that with us. Mark, given your extensive work in developing green hydrogen hubs, do you have any ongoing projects in Morocco? And what is your outlook on the potential for green hydrogen in the region? You need a mic?
They're working? Okay, good. Yes, we've got big green hydrogen projects in 8 countries. They are all, as you say, relatively early stage, but they're not beginning stage. They're further along than that. But the speed at which you can go from early stage into, let's say, mid-stage, the time it takes to become a teenager, really is driven by the clarity with which you can see where you're ultimately going to produce. The jury is still out on, for example, whether Europe is going to import ammonia to crack it back into hydrogen, or, for example, whether the people who are working on direct hydrogen shipping achieve technical success so that shipping hydrogen without putting it through the intermediary stages of ammonia synthesis and then ammonia cracking, it will be cheaper to move hydrogen directly. And until the jury comes in with its verdict on whether it's going to be possible to move hydrogen directly, either by ship or by pipeline, I think you're going to see reluctance on the part of developers to spend a huge amount of money preparing for an ammonia option that maybe isn't the right option. Obviously, in the event that the IMO comes through and encourages the use of ammonia in shipping, that entirely obviates that problem. And the moment you had real clarity on international shipping, I think you would see these projects speed up enormously. But we're sort of in purgatory now, where no one is exactly sure where we're going to be 3 years from now. And if you try and go fast, you always have to go fast in a direction. And it's kind of in everybody's interest for the time being, slowly to move forward without too pointed a choice.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mark, for sharing that. Aman, last year, Bloom Energy began generating hydrogen from what the company calls the world's most efficient electrolyzer and largest solid oxide electrolyzer system, located at NASA's Ames Research Center. Given these advancements, what are the ongoing projects that you're currently pursuing, and what is your outlook on the region?
Sure, thank you. First, starting off with my fellow panelists talked about testing and ensuring that these technologies are really well tested in the field environment that they would. So at our Maffitt NASA facility, we've had 20,000 hours wherein we're actually mapping and following renewables profiles, right? Starting and stopping these electrolyzers, just trying to mirror what they will actually be going through when they're deployed in field. And it's based on that results as well. We've seen very encouraging results in terms of the life cycle cost of hydrogen that we can create. Valerie talked about total installed cost, which absolutely is a key focus area. And from our standpoint, we're actually leveraging our scaled fuel cell experience. So as fuel cells have gone utility scale, it has helped us learn how to optimize the balance of plant. And today we feel pretty confident that our total installed cost will come down by close to 25% in next 2 years. And then finally, in terms of projects, this year we've signed 2 large projects that we haven't publicly announced, which you will see announcements in Q4 as the financial closure happens. So from our standpoint, I also agree that we've seen the size and the scale of projects has become bigger versus pilot projects. And our approach has been, we clearly lost out on the race of signing MOUs, so we were more focused on, we'll announce the projects that we've signed as and when they financially close. So 2 of those projects we've already signed this year that we'll be announcing in due course, hopefully before the end of the year.
Thank you so much, Aman, for sharing that with us. Hydrogel is a Moroccan initiative that we're very proud of. It aims to position itself as a leading global player in the field of green hydrogen and green ammonia by developing an industrial ecosystem. Could you share insights on the ongoing and upcoming developments at Hydrogel, and how do you envision these projects contributing to the growth of the market in the region?
Thank you. Well, yes, what we do is that we develop, of course, projects, but we develop projects that have a flavor that sticks with our strategy. So our strategy is really to position, projects in Morocco as leaders over time, and of course, on the long run. So the choices that we make today are extremely important actually in harvesting basically the benefits over time. So we really try to have that in mind when developing the project. So of course every project has its own merit, but it has also a twist in it that makes a step for us to climb on to guarantee long-term leadership, competitiveness, and so on. So in that sense, we are also fostering a lot promising technologies. We really believe that technology is one lever of improvement, of course, in terms of competitiveness. And our projects have also that in it. But we also believe strongly, as we said before, that partnerships are extremely important also to unlock pockets of value. Because what we see is that, as it was mentioned, it's an environment where there is still a lot of learning to be captured. And each and every time we work very closely with partners, we go that extra mile. Sometimes it can be a bit invasive, but still we go that extra mile to unlock those pockets of value. And those pockets can be in a way of integration. I mean, my colleague from Siemens mentioned, grid stability. This is clearly something that requires a lot of collaboration. It can be also in terms of intermittency management. It can be in terms of efficiency of electrolysis. So there are plenty of areas where collaboration trickles down the value. And I think when we talk about, scaling up this industry, it's exactly those practical efforts in each and every project that contribute to advancing, us as, ecosystem builder, project developers, but also our partners who will then, improve their technology, improve the way it integrates, the way it is built. So those are all areas where there is still a lot to come in terms of improvement, and this is how we make it happen very practically by working on projects, working on science topics, working on R&D, and this collaboration is really what is key for us. Now, the second aspect is, as you mentioned, we are in Morocco, and what we want is also to develop an ecosystem in Morocco that is supporting the projects when they start, but also supporting the projects during their lifetime. And I think that support is really important, thanks to all the ingredients that will be required. So we need, of course, to have engineering capabilities that are able to accompany the project. We need to have technology providers that are willing also to look at the specifics of our region and fine-tune the technology to fit best our projects. We need also to develop, of course, the young generation that is coming, learning, young engineers that will be in this industry tomorrow. And this is why, we are in the middle of an ecosystem between Innovex, UM6P, OCP, where we have the opportunity really to reach all these aspects. And we really do that. We go the extra mile in everything we do, and we think that it's a good recipe for success.
Thank you so much, Amin, for sharing that with us. I am moving on to you now, Abdelrahim. GISA is also part of the larger ecosystem of OCP, and you collaborate closely with Hydrogel and other global players. In your view, is the trend in the green hydrogen sector evolving and accelerating? What is your outlook on that?
Back to 2020 and 2022, we have seen a lot of announcement of huge projects, gigawatt scales projects everywhere in the world. We have also seen a lot of announcement for gigafactories everywhere in the world, sometimes tens of gigawatts. Today, we cannot expect to see 1/10 of those projects reaching the phases that they were supposed to reach by 2027, or by 2027 up to 2030. Why? There is the issue of the offtake. Today, there is no offtaker who is ready today to take the risk of signing a long-term supply agreement with one producer of hydrogen. Second, even the electrolyzers cost, they did not follow the trends that were supposed to follow in the announcement that we have seen in 2020 or 2022. At the opposite of that, some electrolyzers costs are increasing instead of decreasing. And this will not encourage neither the investors in the manufacturing fields, neither the developers in hydrogen production. And the third point that is preventing, I think, the boom from happening is also the regulation, legal and regulatory framework. And this is very important, not only on the national side, but also international side. Today, there is no complete framework or regulatory framework worldwide that can manage all the aspects of the green hydrogen, from renewable generation to transport, to the use, to energy generation, water generation. No complete regulatory framework. And this is the responsibility of whom? This is the government's responsibility. So today, I can confirm that energy transition has a cost. Who will pay the cost? Sure, it will not be the private sector, because there is no private sector without profit. So the governments need to support, of course. The end users also will support, because we need to be ready to pay our energy more expensive than today if we want to reach or to use green hydrogen and green energy. I think that I told a lot of things about the context today, but from the national point of view, I can confirm that there is a full commitment of some of our partners, for example, Hydrogel. We are working with Hydrogel in several gigafactories and also gigawatt scale projects, and there is a full commitment to go until the end of the projects. We are starting the feed on some of the projects, and we do not feel any problem from their side. On our side also at JESA, we are building a center of excellence in order to be ready to support our client. And I think Hussam, he talked also about developing our engineering, developing our know-how. And today, JESA at all levels is ready to invest with the support of our clients in order to build those capabilities in Morocco, and maybe to export them outside Morocco.
Thank you.
Back again, I think the last point, we cannot expect, for example, from the local government of Morocco to support green hydrogen that will be exported. It's the countries that will be importing the green hydrogen to support or to put in place the mechanism that will allow the third parties to produce hydrogen, or at least to bring hydrogen at their side at reasonable costs.
Thank you so much. That's a strong point. Thank you for sharing your perspectives with us, Abdelrahim. Mr. Rida Hamdoun, considering the potential of green hydrogen, and to help us wrap up this very rich panel discussion, how many jobs do you foresee this sector generating in Morocco, and what positive impacts do you anticipate for Morocco and Africa as a whole?
Another great question, Manal, thank you. Well, this really should be called the Power to Jobs Summit, actually, because...
Power to Jobs Summit for the organizers.
Because that's the end game for us. How do you create jobs? Because renewables per se, they don't create a lot of jobs, permanent jobs. They create a lot of jobs during the construction phase, but the ratio of jobs per square kilometer mobilized is not the one that you think. That's why you need to invest in the industrial downstream. I don't know of any growth story that hasn't started in the industrial revolution. Europe was built in the 19th century on the back of its own industrial revolution. And Africa will be built on the back of its green industrial revolution. Remember that even politically, the EU was built on the community of coal and of steel, la Communauté du Charbon et de l'Acier en 1956. And we call upon to create the same thing for Africa, a community of hydrogen and green steel. So I think this should be the vision for Africa. So how do you do that? You do that by leveraging your ability to produce low-cost, low-carbon electrons to attract green industrial investments on your old soil. I think projects that stop at just producing the electrons and exporting them back to Europe or anywhere else, I don't think they're a good use of your land as a country. That's why green hydrogen is a bonanza if you want to create jobs and permanent jobs on the long term. So to go back to your questions, to your question on how many jobs we could create, Morocco is already at the forefront of creating jobs in the green renewable industry. I was reading a survey of DII, and we already ranked #2 in MENA. We, in Morocco, have already created 12,000 direct jobs related to the green energy transition, and we forecast that we will create 30,000 jobs in the green hydrogen sector from now until 2030. Because think about it, just a DRI unit of 2.5 million units can create 500 jobs and threefold the number of indirect jobs. A Haber-Bosch unit will create 300 jobs, and the gigafactory of electrolyzers, 200 direct jobs. So if you invest on the whole value chain, you're counting thousands and thousands of jobs. Just in Africa, 1.9 million jobs will be created in the green industry, on the green industry. Africa has today the two hottest commodities on the market: good winds and sun, and minerals. And with that, you can do miracles. Remember, Africa today is only 3% of the worldwide industrial production. That's far from enough. But we forecast that Africa will now produce 15% of the green hydrogen in the world. So that's a lot of jobs. It's time for Africa. Let's do it. Let's stop talking about perpetual green energy transition, and let's start talking about and executing a green industrial affirmation for Africa, and let's do it together.
It is time for Africa, ladies and gentlemen, and let's do it all together. Many thanks to all of you. We appreciate your expertise. Let's please give them a round of applause. Thank you so much to each and every one of you. We kindly invite you to please join us for a group photo. I hope you enjoyed in the audience this conversation as much as I did. I know it's a lot of content to take in. We still have one plenary session with a high level of speakers, so please stay with us in the room. Thank you.